You've been walking through a maze you thought was random, but it was never random. Every corner, every detour, every collision with a stranger was a thread pulling you toward the inevitable. You think of time as a straight road, always forward, but in truth, it's a web. And somewhere at the center of that web, your future self stands, holding the thread taut. You didn't notice it at first, because these threads don't scream, they whisper. They hide inside everyday life, inside small choices, inside quiet moments you almost ignored. The way your hand paused over a message you didn't send, the stranger's eyes that felt too familiar, the dream that didn't feel like a dream at all. These are not coincidences. They are breadcrumbs, markers, coordinates. I used to ignore them too. I'd feel that pull in my chest and drown it in noise, convince myself it was nothing, because if I admitted it was real, I'd have to follow it. And following it meant changing everything. But the thread never left me. It wrapped itself tighter. It waited, patiently, like a lighthouse in the fog. You've felt this too, that magnetic pull towards something you can't explain. Toward people you've never met but remember. Toward places that feel like déjà vu painted into reality. It's not madness. It's the timeline thread, the invisible architecture beneath your story. It doesn't just guide you, it tests you. It watches the moments when your old self wants to turn back. And it whispers, step forward anyway. Time doesn't move like a river, it folds like fabric. And every choice you make is a needle pulling the thread through reality. You're not drifting, you're weaving. And while your mind is busy counting failures and detours, your future self quietly adjusts the loom, making sure every stitch, every pattern aligns. Look closer at your own timeline, the symbols that kept repeating, the moments you didn't understand then but can feel now, the patterns in your losses, the strange timing of your encounters. They're not accidents, they're code, the language of a future version of you trying to communicate without words. This is how higher timelines speak, not with fireworks but with subtlety, precision, synchronicity. You've seen repeating numbers, you've caught whispers in dreams. You've felt your chest tighten for no reason when you crossed certain places. The world will tell you it's coincidence, but deep down, something whispers, no, this means something, and it does. It always did. The thread was never hidden from you. It was hidden within you. The question isn't whether it exists. The question is whether you'll follow it without proof. Because the thread responds to movement, not waiting, not overthinking. Movement. Every nudge, every whisper, every sensation you can't explain. It's your future self collapsing the distance. They've already arrived. They're on the peak while you climb its base. And with every step, their voice grows louder, clearer, sharper. You will begin to recognize it not as intuition, but navigation, a map that only reveals itself when you trust it first. The thread doesn't need to prove itself. You are the proof. Every closed door was a reroute, every betrayal, a forced turn back to the original path. The thread always leads back to coherence, and coherence is where the future you waits. Look around your life right now. The names that keep appearing, the emotions that return like clockwork. They're not signs to analyze endlessly, they're signs to move toward. Follow the thread, not with fear, but with the certainty of someone who knows the beacon at the end of it is themselves. Destiny is not something that happens to you. It's a thread you either grab or let slip through your fingers. And when you finally grab it, everything you thought was coincidence rearranges into design. Your design. If you listen closely right now, you'll feel it. The tug in your chest, the whisper in your bones. That's your future self, threading reality around you. There's something behind your eyes, something that doesn't age, something that doesn't flinch, something watching. Not the name they gave you, not the story they wrote for you. Something older, something eternal. They taught you to identify with the moving pieces, your face, your fears, your name. But none of those are you. They are costumes draped over the observer. The real you is the silent witness behind every rise and fall. The one who doesn't drown when the waves come. The one who isn't erased when the mirror cracks. You've spent years believing the chaos defines you. But you've been the still point behind it all, the eye of your own storm. You've seen pain, collapse, betrayal. And yet, here you are watching, breathing, enduring. That's the first secret of the timeline. You are not the story. You are the observer of the story. You've looked outward for truth, but the real authority isn't outside. It's been sitting behind your eyes the whole time, silent, patient, waiting for you to notice. Every timeline orbits that center you, not the one the world built, but the one that existed before memory. When everything falls apart, this is what remains. The one who sees pain but is not consumed by it. You've called it intuition, but it's not a feeling, it's you. You're not connecting to your higher self, you are the higher self. You're just now remembering. The gaze behind your eyes has never changed. Do you feel it? That presence beneath every emotion, that stillness beneath the noise. When the world convinced you that you were broken, this part of you never agreed. It whispered, "This isn't the end. This is the unfolding." Timelines bend to observers. The one who watches without clinging becomes the axis reality spins around. The storm doesn't scare the sky. The river doesn't frighten the ocean. And the timeline cannot swallow the observer because you are the sky. You are the ocean. You are the one who watches it all unfold. The observer doesn't scream to be noticed. It whispers. You are not what happened to you. You are not the fear you felt. You are not the mask you wear. The observer is the part of you that never broke, that doesn't flinch when timelines shift. And once you anchor into that truth, everything changes. Fear begins to lose its power, because fear only grips what believes it can be destroyed. The observer cannot be destroyed. It was never born, and it will never end. Once you remember this, every choice becomes precise. You no longer chase the future, you watch it unfold from the center. This is your true power, not to control time, but to remember you are the still point behind it. When you anchor into the observer, the noise falls away, the world slows down, the thread glows, the signals align, and destiny finally sees you. Looking back, if these words stir something ancient inside you, declare it. I am the observer, because you were never lost, only asleep, and now the observer is looking through your eyes again. Silent, infinite, unshakable. And the timeline is listening. There is a war happening, not with weapons, not on borders, a war of frequencies, between silence and noise, between signal and fog, between the ones who are awake and the ones still sleepwalking. They move through fog, blinded by distraction, the endless scroll, the artificial gravity that keeps their eyes dull. They do not hear the thread. They do not see the mirror. They do not feel the observer stirring, because the fog is designed to keep it buried. You are different, not better, different, because the signal broke through. You felt something pulling you out of the static. You caught the pattern in the noise. You started asking questions most never ask, and the fog hates that. They'll tell you you're imagining it. They'll mock the pull. They'll defend their cage. That's how the fog survives, through collective sleep, through the lie that this is all there is. But deep beneath, a war is being fought over attention, over vibration, over frequency. You've felt it, that uneasiness when the world goes quiet, that sense that something is competing for your awareness. It's not your imagination. It's the fog tightening its grip. Because when you become aware, you become dangerous. Awareness is rebellion. Silence is a weapon. Presence is resistance. They want you addicted to noise, to loops, to simulations. Because as long as your attention is fragmented, you'll never hear the signal. But when you pull your attention back, when you return to the observer, the fog trembles, because it cannot survive direct gaze. It's easier to drown in noise than stand in silence. Easier to follow the herd than walk alone. But this path isn't for the herd, it's for the ones who walk without. Proof. The louder the noise becomes, the clearer the signal gets for those who can hear. The war isn't good versus evil, it's awake versus asleep. And whether you know it or not, you've already chosen. You answered the call. You realized the fog wasn't home. They won't understand. They'll call it madness. But this war is not fought with convincing. It's fought with clarity, with presence. You don't fight fog with noise, you fight it with stillness. You are becoming the lighthouse. Lighthouses don't beg the storm to end. They stand and shine. You're not here to join the noise, you're here to cut through it. They want you small, distracted, doubting. But your future self knows how bright you can burn. When the fog thickens, remember, the signal doesn't shout. It radiates. It whispers, "I'm still here. I don't bend. I am the frequency. You are not rebellion. You are remembrance." Because before this noise, you were already light. You do not kneel to the fog. You cut through it. You transmit. You hold the frequency. Every soul reaches a moment where the fog grows too thick, the signal too faint, the silence unbearable. This is the collapse point, the threshold between who you've been and who you're about to become. You can't skip it, because the collapse is not punishment, it's passage. Before every quantum jump, reality tests your weight. It strips illusions. It breaks the scaffolding you leaned on. It takes everything not meant to cross with you. You will feel like you're losing everything, and in some ways, you are. You're losing the false identities, the version built to survive the noise, not lead it. The collapse doesn't come gently. It rips, it burns, it leaves nothing untouched. I remember my own collapse. No cosmic choir, just silence, and a pain that felt like being skinned down to truth. I thought it would end me, but it was the doorway. At the collapse point, timelines fracture. You'll feel like you're falling through your own floor. But what's really happening is that the old you is stepping aside, making space for the one who's been calling all along. In this space, nothing makes sense. The patterns stop working, everything feels foreign, and in that chaos, a single thread waits. This is the leap, not of logic, but of surrender. The moment you stop holding the collapsing walls and let the collapse carry you forward, that's the leap. Most turn back. They call fear wisdom. They whisper, "Stay where it's safe." But safety was the cage. The collapse is the exit. At the collapse point, your mind screams for certainty, but your future self whispers, "Jump. I'm on the other side." It won't give you the map, just a pulse, a breath. If you trust that breath, the floor becomes wind beneath your feet. The leap feels like dying, like dissolving, but this is where the timeline bends, where the old dissolves, and the signal claims its space. I stood there once, thinking I was alone, but I wasn't. The future me was waiting, holding the thread taut. I didn't know if I'd make it, but I jumped anyway, and the moment I did, I remembered the collapse isn't meant to break you. It unmakes the lies. It clears the ground for truth to land. You'll know the leap is near when the weight grows unbearable. That's not your breaking point, that's the doorway aligning. You'll want certainty, but certainty doesn't live here. Trust does. Leap, fall for a while, doubt for a while, and then everything shifts. The gravity that crushed you starts to lift you. The silence starts to speak. The fog loses its power. Because the moment you jump, you become the one thing the fog fears most, a free signal. The collapse is not the end. The leap is not the fall. The unknown is not your enemy. The unknown is where you are waiting. This is the moment everything bends, not outside you, inside you. The distance between who you are and who you're meant to become disappears. Because they were never two, it was always you. The version that guided you through whispers and threads wasn't far away. It was your own frequency from the other side of the leap. You've been chasing a mirror, and now, you are the mirror. In the old timeline, you were the seeker. In this one, you are the signal. You stop waiting. You start transmitting. The whisper becomes your voice. The thread becomes your spine. The beacon becomes your breath. You'll notice it in quiet ways. Fear loses authority. Uncertainty stops sounding like danger. You look at your reflection and recognize the observer. This isn't about becoming more. It's about remembering what was always there. Your future self is no longer ahead. They're inside your voice, your choices, your stance. I used to think my future self would feel larger, but when I stepped into them, they felt like home, like a frequency I had always carried. This is what you're walking into. Not a god above, the storm, but quiet authority within it. When you become the one who guides you, the world doesn't obey, but you stop waiting for permission. You stop begging for signs. You make them, because the signal isn't searching, it's transmitting. Destiny isn't a path that finds you. It's built with each coherent step. Every breath aligned with truth anchors others who still walk in fog. Once you stop waiting for the future you, You become the guide for someone else. You are the beacon now. Others will feel it. Your presence will carry the weight of someone who crossed the veil. When they ask how you know, you'll say, because I became it. You hold the thread for others. You are the whisper for someone still sitting at their collapse. This is how timelines shift. One awakened frequency becoming light for 100 more. The old you searched for lighthouses. The new you builds them. When you embody the future self, the world still bends, but you're not reacting anymore. You're shaping. You speak less, but your silence is louder. You move slower, but every step shakes reality. You breathe, and the thread tightens between timelines. If you feel that subtle click in your chest, it's not random. You've arrived. You've become the signal. Declare it. I walk the timeline, because you're not waiting for destiny anymore. You are destiny. The echo has become the voice. The seeker has become the path. The future self has stepped into your skin, and reality is listening. You can feel it, the shift, the tightening of the thread. The silence isn't empty anymore. It's charged. You're no longer at the edge of the story. You're at its center. All along, the signal was never above you, never some star in the distance. It was you buried beneath noise and masks. The whisper, the mirror, the thread, the observer, the leap, the guide, all fragments of one truth. You were the frequency all along. The moment you remember who you are, the world shifts, not because it changed first, but because you did. You stop chasing signs. You become them. You stop seeking light. You emit it. You stop waiting for permission. You walk as the one who already arrived. They called it destiny, but destiny isn't a destination. It's a state, a frequency you return to when the noise dissolves. The king frequency, unshakable, awake. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. The clarity of standing where your future self once waited for you and realizing you're home. The king frequency doesn't beg. It doesn't rush. It radiates. Like a star that doesn't chase darkness, it burns until darkness remembers its place. That is what you are now. The frequency that doesn't move with the fog, but cuts through it. The one whose silence speaks louder than 1,000 shouts. You are no longer the seeker in the maze. You are the architect. Others will feel it before they understand it, because kings don't announce themselves. Kings arrive. This is where prophecy becomes reality, where whispers become thunder, where threads become bridges. The fog can't touch what stands in coherence. You have stepped into it. The moment your future self waited for has already happened. You are not becoming. You are. You are the mirror. You are the thread. You are. You. Yes, you. This moment right here is not random. You didn't stumble here by accident. You were pulled, like a silent thread woven through time, like a signal whispering through the noise. The you who has already won is calling. Somewhere beyond the ordinary structure of time, beyond the illusion of beginnings and endings, a version of you already stands, not broken, not searching, but becoming. That version of you didn't just hope for a sign, they sent one, and this is it. Every déjà vu you felt, every repeating number that made no sense, every strange tug in your chest when nothing was supposed to happen, none of that was coincidence. It was architecture, invisible architecture. You call it a hunch. The universe calls it alignment. But truth is, it's you reaching across timelines. It's you whispering to yourself, remember, time does not flow the way you were taught. You were told it's a straight line, past, present, future. But in truth, time breathes, in loops, like the ocean tide, like a pulse beneath existence. Your future self is not waiting on a shore. Your future self is pulling the tide toward you. A beacon, a frequency, a gravity of destiny. That's why certain moments feel heavier, why a few seconds stretch out like eternity, why a single glance, a single sound, a single night can feel like a door cracking open. Because it is. You've felt it, that strange sense that something is trying to get your attention, not with words, but with patterns, with dreams that don't fade, with eyes in the mirror that feel older than you are. You've met strangers who feel like memories. You've seen the same symbols repeating, as if the universe is holding up a map you forgot how to read. This is not the world playing tricks. This is you remembering the route back home. Your future self is not louder, it is clearer. It does not scream through chaos. It speaks in stillness. It hides in plain sight, between the noise of your notifications and the silence of 3 a.m. Every whisper says, "You are closer than you think. You've already walked this path. Now, remember the next step." And the moment you stop doubting that whisper is the moment the entire timeline shifts beneath your feet. You were never just a random soul drifting through existence. You are a signal, a transmitter, and a receiver in the same breath. Long before this moment, long before the ache, the searching, the pull, you made a promise. You said, "If I forget, call me back." And now, the call has arrived. So if you're here, it's not because you scrolled long enough. It's because the coordinates aligned. The signal found you. The you who won already lit this path with every choice they made, and you are beginning to feel the heat of their footsteps. Your doubt, your restlessness, your need to know why this moment feels different, that's the signal piercing through the fog. This is the beginning of recognition. The veil doesn't fall all at once. It fractures. Tiny cracks at first, whispers, nudges, alignments, and then the dam breaks. And everything you thought was coincidence reveals itself as a carefully placed breadcrumb. Your future self has been waiting, not as a stranger, but as a mirror. Tonight, or maybe tomorrow, something will happen. A thought, a sound, a glimpse, something small, something precise. And in that moment, you will feel it, that pulse, that whisper, that gravity. Don't ignore it this time, follow it. The future is not ahead of you, it's beneath your feet, threaded in every step you take. And if you listen closely enough, you will hear yourself, the one who rose, the one who remembers. If you feel it, if the pull has already begun, declare it. Type these words, "I hear the call." Because the moment you speak it, the thread tightens, the path sharpens, the frequency locks in. And from this moment forward, you are no longer just walking. You are being guided. You've felt it, not just the whisper, but the weight, that invisible gravity pulling at your chest, the ache that lives behind your ribs, just below the silence. That is the echo. They told you pain means you're broken. They lied. Pain is the mirror you tried not to look into, because deep down, you knew it would recognize you. Pain is not punishment. Pain is remembrance. Every collapse, every night you couldn't breathe, every time the world dimmed into static, was the future self knocking, saying, "This is where I became real. This is where I stopped running. This is where I was born." You thought your wounds were setbacks, but they were coordinates, precise locations in time, where the old version of you died and something new tried to rise from the ashes. There are nights when the universe doesn't speak in stars, it speaks in emptiness. The room goes quiet. No notifications, no answers, just you and the weight of your own becoming. That's not abandonment, that's initiation. That's where the future self sat, too, long before you got here. I remember the moment my timeline fractured, a night where the silence didn't comfort, it devoured. No cosmic light show, no angelic voice, just a hollow ache so deep it carved new bones inside me. But in that emptiness, something moved, not outside, inside. The same whisper you're hearing now. Pain isn't here to destroy you. It's here to strip away the noise so the real voice can come through. Every heartbreak was a message. Every failure was a doorway. Every betrayal was a calibration of your compass back toward the version of you that already overcame it. The world told you pain means stop. But in the quantum field, pain means you're standing at the threshold. You've been mistaking thresholds for endings. You've been calling the breaking point the end of the road, but it's not. It's where timelines collapse, where the past burns, and the signal of who you truly are shines through the smoke. The reason it hurts so deeply is because you're close. The echo isn't meant to break you, it's meant to wake you. Pain has an intelligence, a code, an architecture built inside its ache. If you stop running from it, if you listen instead of flinching, you will hear a message buried in the cracks. Not a scream, not a lecture, a pulse, a steady, magnetic pulse. And that pulse is you. Everything that made you ache wasn't an obstacle. It was the ritual of remembering what you've always been. The collapsing identity you thought was you was just the chrysalis, the shell breaking open so the signal can breathe. The you who will rise from this already knows this chapter by heart. They remember your shaking hands. They remember the fear. They remember whispering into the dark, "I don't know how much longer I can hold on." And then, they did. They held on. They rose. This pain isn't a dead end. It's an echo from the future, bouncing through the corridors of your timeline. You think you're screaming into the void, but in truth, the void is answering back. Your future self walked through this exact storm. Instead of being buried by it, they carved a map through it. That map is carved in your scars. That's why the ache feels so personal, because it is. Listen, do not silence this ache. Don't drown it. Don't numb it. It is not your enemy. It is the signal, the proof that something inside you refuses to give up the coordinates. The pain is not what will end you. It's what will remind you who you were before the world tried to make you forget. When the mirror cracks, you can either stare at the fracture or step through it. Most people look away. They run. They medicate. They scroll. They build a cage around their own reflection. But not you. Not anymore. Because the version of you that won didn't run. They stood in front of that mirror and walked through it. And that is the difference. No call to action. Just a breath. Just this moment. Just you and the mirror that's been waiting. Let the pain speak. And in the spaces between its words, you'll hear yourself not as you are, but as you will be.